Hello, and welcome back to the Chris McPherson Show for another daily dose. We are talking some tennis as we get down to the real meat and potatoes of the Grand Slam action here at the Australian Open. And the straight set slam is continuing to live up to its nickname this season, and it is just not really delivering some of the contests we might have hoped for, but it is certainly delivering top shelf tennis performances on an individual level. We're looking forward to today, recapping the semi-finals from the women's, looking ahead to the day ahead, including those men's semi-finals, and breaking down some Aussies in action, as well as some Aussies booking their way through to a Grand Slam final. As always, make sure to hit like on the video, get involved in the comments, let us know your thoughts and takeaways, and we'd love it if you hit subscribe on the channel as well to stay up to date with all of your tennis action, as well as plenty more sports here on the Chris McPherson Show each and every day. But let's start it off with those women's semi-finals recaps. And Alina Svitolina was defeated by the number one seed, Aryna Sabalenka, 6-2, 6-3. Aryna Sabalenka into her fourth consecutive Australian Open final and her eighth Grand Slam final overall. And to be fair, this wasn't without any controversy or bumps for Sabalenka. She copped a hindrance call in the first set after she made a noise after hitting a forehand that looked like it was going to go long irrespective, but the umpire made a call on it. It was then video reviewed and upheld, which clearly seemed to aggravate Aryna Sabalenka, and she appeared to harness and use that as motivation as she accelerated through the first set and went on from there to win in those two sets, 6-2, 6-3. And as I said, book her way into a fourth consecutive final here, where she is just building an absolutely phenomenal record. She will take on the fifth seed, Elena Rybakina, after Rybakina defeated Jessica Pegula 6-3, 7-6. To make it 9 in a row against top 10 players. An absolutely phenomenal record at the moment, and 19 wins from her last 22 matches going back to October, and sealing a return to the Australian Open final after a 3-year absence going back to 2023. Rybakina's win does set up a rematch of that 2023 final where she lost to Aryna Sabalenka, so it will be a chance potentially for some revenge, or will it be Sabalenka doubling down? We'll talk about that in our preview tomorrow. It certainly took some overcoming of some bumps to seal the win, as Rybakina was unable to close out 3 match points earlier in the second set when Pegula dug deep, serving it at 3-5 down in that second set. Then managed to take it to the tiebreak, and the tiebreak was a similar sort of nervous piece for Rybakina, who only a couple of years ago here against Potapova had an epic tiebreak that she lost 22-20. Rybakina had the chance to take upper hands a couple of times early, including when she was at 4-2 up, and the nerves just seemed to get the better of her. But then it got to 7-all, and she closed it out with back-to-back points, including an ace, to set up a match point, which she then won and got herself through to her third Grand Slam final appearance, her second here at the Australian Open, remembering that she won Wimbledon back in 2022 as well. We move on to Aussie Watch, and Jason Kubler and Mark Polmans were in action yesterday, and they booked their spot into Saturday's men's doubles final with a win over Jan Zielinski and Luke Johnson, 6-2, 3-6, 6-3. They will take on the sixth seeds, Christian Harrison and Niels Skupski. They took out the third seeds in their semi-final, so it will be the wildcards up against the six seeds in the final on Saturday, and we'll break that down again in our preview tomorrow. As for our Aussies in action, we have our first chance at Grand Slam glory for 2026 for Australia, as John Peers and Olivia Gadecki look to go back-to-back in the mixed doubles when they take on Kristina Mladenovic and Manuel Guinard in the 2026 mixed doubles decider. They could become the first pair to go back-to-back in this event at the Australian Open in 37 years. The last pair to do it was Jana Novotná and Jim Pugh way back in 1988-89. Mladenovic, though, is no lightweight when it comes to doubles. She's won 6 women's doubles titles, including the 2018 and 2020 Australian Open titles, plus 3 mixed doubles Grand Slams, including 2014 and 2022 here at Melbourne Park. 2014 was with Daniel Nestor, 2022 with Ivan Dodig. So certainly absolutely not someone to underestimate. She's got lots of experience at this top level. So hopefully Peers and Gadecki have got the game to take them down and take out the title and go back-to-back. For the first time in 37 years, that would be something. But let's move on now and let's talk about those men's semi-finals, starting with the day or the afternoon session. Carlos Alcaraz against Alexander Zverev, the number 1 seed, up against the number 3 seed. Both these guys, interestingly, 25 titles on tour and a 6-all head-to-head record. But where it comes to the fore for Carlos, in slams. He has 6 titles. Alexander Zverev, as we know, yet to win a Grand Slam. So when we break it down, as I said, 6-all the head-to-head record here between these two. Just one match last year, which was at the Cincinnati Open, which Alcaraz won in straight sets, 6-4, 6-3. But it's also easy to forget that these guys played here only 2 years ago in a quarterfinal where Alcaraz absolutely played into Zverev's hands and lost that one in 4 sets. So Alcaraz has 3 of the last 4. If we go back as far as that Australian Open one over the last 2 years, he has 3 of 5. Zverev had the early running against him, but as I say, it is certainly starting to form into Alcaraz's favour, including that last win in Cincinnati. And I think Alcaraz is a different player to where he was 2 years ago. Zverev, from his point of view, needs to ensure that his serve is on here. It's been certainly on against Leonard Tien, Francisco Cerundolo, and going back to his earlier matches, his serve's been his strength. And it is one area where he can hold a measurable advantage and did hold a measurable advantage even in their last match. So that's for Zverev. He needs to make sure he finds a way onto the front foot as well. We often see when he gets into these big contests, he's got a propensity to play sort of off the back foot and create more space and time, which if you start giving Alcaraz space and time, it is one of the worst things you're going to be able to do. On the other side, Carlos needs to ensure that he tactically is forcing Zverev to play that forehand, push it down the line into Carlos's strengths. In that 2024 quarterfinal, he played into Zverev's hands by playing across the backhand so much more and allowed Zverev to set the tone, tempo, and dominate. I've got Carlos winning this one in 4. I think it'll be a cracking encounter. Again, we're not seeing many go the distance here on Rod Laver Arena, so I don't think it's quite going to go to that. I'd love it if it did, but I've got Alcaraz getting it done in 4 to start things off. Again, I think the day session plays into Carlos's hands a little more than it does to Sasha's, so that's how we see this one shaping up. The other semi-final, of course, is Jannik Sinner versus Novak Djokovic. Jannik Sinner has won his last 5 against Novak Djokovic and holds an overall head-to-head lead 6-4. And just to talk about that 5 in a row stat, only one other player in Novak's career has done that, and that was Rafael Nadal way back in 2009. He got to a 5-game winning run against Djokovic. Both these players will tend to use their defence first to set the tone, but Sinner has much more ease in changing that tempo, getting onto the front foot and playing offence from the defensive position. Djokovic is going to need to find a way to get on the front foot and fight fire with fire here. He needs to potentially use his serve and volley as he did in his early matches, but again, he's without a lot of proper match, not practice, but match form, I guess, after not playing that 4th round against Mensik and then having Musetti dominate him for 2 sets in the quarterfinal before withdrawing with injury. Novak looks best generally when he can set the tone, which is an area that he did well in those first 3 matches as well, admittedly against not the same caliber of opponents as he played against Musetti and is playing here against Jannik Sinner. But he certainly struggled in the quarterfinal trying to do that against Lorenzo. So I'm not sure what angle Novak takes from that point of view, but I think they're the kind of points that he needs to lean into. At the end of the day, though, Sinner is a different beast and a different level. And I think based on what we've seen so far, it would take a brave man to suggest that he doesn't make this winning run against Novak 6 in a row. You've only got to have a look at what he's done across the tournament so far. He's only dropped that 1 set against Elliot Spizzirri. He's come back really strong with the wins over Darderi and Shelton. And to be fair, it didn't look like he broke out of 4th gear against Ben Shelton. No disrespect to Ben Shelton, but he was in another class, Sinner, and was strong in that 6-3, 6-4, 6-4 win. So for mine, I've got Sinner winning this in straight sets. I'd love to find a way Novak takes 1 or even 2 off him and goes the distance, and I'll never rule it out because this is a man who's got 24 Grand Slam titles and 102 titles in all. So certainly nothing that you're ever going to say, look, it can't happen. But I'm just saying the laws of probability suggest that Sinner's going to win this one in straight sets and continue marching on to another Sin-Karaz matchup. That's how I've got it. I've got Sinner in 3. Continue to open up the gap at the top of the rankings for these two. He's a 2-time defending champion here. He loves the Australian Open. And again, under lights tonight, I think he'll be a little bit too strong for Djokovic. And we'll get this one done in straight sets. Well, big thank you for tuning in. We've only got a couple more of these Australian Open shows left now. One more to preview our women's final, then one to preview our men's final, then one to wrap it all up. So we are certainly on the downhill run here as the Australian Open continues on. But there'll be plenty more tennis. We've got Davis Cup just ahead and much, much more throughout the year. So make sure, if you haven't already, to hit subscribe to keep up to date with all of your tennis news. Give the video a like. Get involved in the comments as well and let us know who you think takes out the Australian Open from here for the men's and women's tournaments. But until next time, a huge thanks for tuning in to your home of the black and white of sports. No grey opinions here on the Chris McPherson Show.